In this video, I wanted to take a look at the Phish song, The Wedge. I've had a number of people request a video on this song, so I wanted to put this one together. It's not a super difficult song, but like most Phish songs, it does have a few quirks to it, and if you're going to actually play the tune, it certainly has quite a few things in it that you have to be really on the ball with in order to nail it. It also, there's some interesting stuff going on in the solo section, which I'm going to pick apart, and really the solo is a good example of a lot of things that I talk about all over my website. So for starters, I want to take a look at the intro riff here. Now this is all tabbed out. I'll put the tab up in a PDF on my website that you can download so you can check out the exact way to play it. But I'll play it here slowly a couple times and then I'll bring it up to speed and show you how it works. So I'm on the open A string, and then above that I'm walking down on the 4th string from the 7th to the 5th to the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd frets. So just a little walk down there. Done slowly, it's going to look like this. So again, check out the tab on my website for the exact way to play it. One thing I will point out about it though is my pick direction. A lot of it is pretty syncopated, so I'm catching a lot of those notes on the upstrokes. Like that. So that's something you really want to watch out for when you're playing it, so you can really lock into that groove. Now, when we get to the verses and choruses of the song, it's all pretty straightforward. I think Trey is pretty much mostly just using straight up bar chords on this. And if you listen to live versions, sometimes he's really barely playing at all. He's really letting the rest of the band hold it down. But if he is playing, he's just playing real simple bar chords right on the beat. So it's like, the chords are A, G, and D. So I'm doing my A as a bar chord here on the 5th fret, the G down here on the 3rd fret, D here on the 5th fret also. We're bobbing on the surface, and the shadow glides below. So a very straightforward chord progression, A mixolydian. Then you've got the pre-chorus, which is the ocean flowing in our veins. That's G, D, A. And it's the ocean flowing in our veins. It's the salt that's in our tears. Next part of the song is the chorus. Take the highway to the Great Divide. That's D, C, A. So I'm still doing my D here. C's now 2 frets below that, back to the A. To the Great Divide. Now, in between the lines on the chorus, I checked out a couple versions of this. Sometimes Trey plays this little line. Sometimes you just hear it in the keyboards, but it's sort of a shortened version of that intro lick. So the chorus chords then are D, C, and A, but over the A you play the lick. I'll show you what I mean. And then the next time, it goes to an E chord instead of the A. And then from there, you go on, repeat the 2nd verse, and then the guitar solo comes in. The guitar solo is where things get a little more interesting. So the first thing you need to know about the guitar solo is that it's a different chord progression than anything else in the rest of the song. Or actually, I should really clarify and say it's actually pretty much the same chord progression, but we've changed keys. So the guitar solo starts off in E mixolydian. It starts with E, and then it goes D, A, E. Then the second time it comes around, it goes D, A. But now it switches to a B chord. And now for a few bars, we're in B mixolydian, and it goes B, A, E, B, A, E. And then there's a couple of breaks, and I'll show you how that works. So the solo that I'm going to look at, and the solo that's tabbed out in the tab that I made for this song, comes from the album version on the Riff album. hopefully in the process of showing this to you, though, I can kind of feed you some ideas and you could go ahead and improvise your own solo to it. But we can get a lot out of analyzing what Trey did in that studio version. Another interesting thing about this solo is that a lot of the licks in it involve sixths. And just this morning I did a video on a whole series of guitar licks involving sixths. It's a very kind of important set of guitar licks that a lot of different players use, including Trey very heavily in the solo. And as I go through it, I'll try and point out where I'm doing it. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little closer for the solo section so you can see what I'm doing. Starts off over an E chord and does basically a Mixolydian lick over this E by hitting this high G sharp on the 16th fret, and then the E here on the 12th fret, both on the first string, and kind of doing a little fall off like that on both notes. And then after that, he bends on the second string, 14th fret, and it's just a half step bend. This is bending the 6th up to the flatted 7th. The sixth here is a C sharp, and the flatted 7th is a D. And that's a lick that Trey uses a lot in the Mixolydian mode, bending that 6th up to the flatted 7th. Then he goes back to this B here on the 12th fret, second string. Now the chord changes to D, and to follow that chord, he slides from 9 to 11 on the third string, and then up above that then does a couple of pull-offs from the 12th to the 10th fret on the first string. And that interval right there from this F sharp on the third string up to this D is a sixth. So it's the first example of that we see in this solo. Now it's moving from the D chord to an A chord. And so he does that same slide while we're still on the D chord from 9 to 11 up to that D on the first string again. So there's that sixth again. This time though, he slides back then from the 10th to the 9th on the first string, and from there just goes down the arpeggio of an A chord, and in this case I'm seeing the caged C shape right here and really just going straight down this arpeggio. And then it finally ends, we're back on the E chord at this point, and he comes to this G sharp on the 11th fret of the 5th string, and from there jumps up to the E here on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. And that interval again from there, the G sharp there, to the E here is also a sixth. So here's that lick again, going from a D chord to an A chord to an E chord. Great lick there, and perfect example of what you can do to follow chords in your melodies. So from there, we're staying on the E chord and then moving to a D chord. So over the E chord now, he does a little triad arpeggio again. This time I'm here 14th fret, 13th, and 12th on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, this little E triad. And then comes back to the 3rd string and slides from the 13th down to the 11th. And again, here we're on that D chord. And in fact, after that, he jumps up and again plays a sixth by playing that high D again here on the 12th fret. After that D chord, we're going to an A chord, and again, he plays a sixth now over the A chord after doing a sixth on that D chord. So this was that E arpeggio, and then doing the sixth over the D. Now from there, I jump down to the 4th string and I slide up from the 11th to the 14th fret, and then jump up to the 2nd string, also on the 14th fret. The chord here is A, and again, that is a sixth right there that outlines an A chord. In this case, it would be the A chord that looks like this. So here's that whole lick again. So it hangs on that sixth a couple more times over that A chord, and now we're switching to the B. And he jumped down and grabbed this B here on the 2nd string, 12th fret. So after he grabs that B here on the 2nd string, 12th fret, now he does a whole step bend on the 2nd string on the 14th fret. That's still very much like a B pentatonic or a B major lick right here. Now the chord changes to to A at that point. For that chord, he takes the D here on the 15th fret of the second string, bends it up a whole step to the E. And that E fits perfectly with the A chord. Then the chord changes to E and B again. So to hit those two chords, he grabs the note on the 14th fret, first string, that's an F sharp, bends it up a whole step to a G sharp, which fits over the E chord, and then comes back down to that F sharp, which fits with the B chord. After that, still staying on the B, and now he does just a whole step bend up here on the 17th fret from the A up to the B. Finally, we get to the hits at the end. The chords at that point are A, E, E, A. There's basically 4 hits. Over the A chord, he's grabbing on the 21st fret, the C sharp, and then over the E chord, he grabs on the 24th fret, that very high E. So a lot of guitars only have 22 frets. You might have to drop that an octave in order to nail it, but this is what this part's going to look like. And then we move on and finish out the rest of the song. So now we get to the last part of the song. Essentially, it's the pre-chorus and chorus just up a whole step from what we were doing before. So they've changed keys. They're kind of now in the key of sort of B or E, depending on how you want to look at it. But the chord progression first comes in on the pre-chorus. We're off of an A chord going A, E, B. It's the ocean flowing in our veins. Does that 3 times. And we could have come so very far. And then it goes A to E to F sharp. Now we're on the last final chorus, and this becomes the vamp of the song too. It goes E to D to B. And then the second time around it goes E to D to F sharp. So that last chorus chord progression, E, D, B, and then E, D, F sharp, is just the vamp that they sort of fade out on the studio version. I have noticed the last couple of years in live versions, they're taking that part and kind of stretching it out into a guitar solo, as Phish is known to do. So I'll just talk real quick about how to handle that. So the first part of the solo, over the E and D, that part really just tells me E mixolydian. So over those 2 chords, I'm pretty much either just straight up following the chords or playing licks in E mixolydian, which very much incorporates both the E and D chords. But then from there, it resolves to a B chord. So you have to switch from E mixolydian over those first 2 to something over the B chord. And over that B chord, I tend to play B mixolydian quite a bit, or just sort of straight up blues licks in B or pentatonic licks in B. Any of that works. The second time it comes around, it's E, D, and F sharp, and I kind of handle that the same way. I play E mixolydian over the E and D, and then I switch to more of an F sharp mixolydian or F sharp kind of blues sort of sound over that F sharp. So throughout this whole solo, you really do have to follow those chords a little bit. But if you get in the habit of kind of simplifying it like that and thinking in terms of E mixolydian for a couple to B mixolydian for a couple, and then E mixolydian to F sharp mixolydian for a couple, that simplifies it enough that it's not too difficult to get around.